Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is remove the swing arm. So I'm going to have to remove the brake caliper, take the wheel off, and we're going to have to drain all the brake fluid as well. Take the chain off. I've got a new chain and sprocket, so I'm going to cut that chain. And having a terrible time with my GoPro out here. I guess it doesn't like to be cold. But we're going to have to cut the chain off and remove all the bolts that hold the swing arm to the frame. So we'll get all that off, and so we can prep this swing arm to be painted. And we're going to replace the chain and sprocket also while we have everything off. So yeah, that's the next step we're going to do. I think the first thing I'm going to do is probably drain the rear master cylinder, get all the fluid out of the brakes, and start with that. Alright, so I drained the fluid out of the master cylinder, well, sucked it out. So now I just pushed this little rubber piece. I don't know if you can see it down here. There's a rubber tab that holds, or metal tab that holds that rubber piece of the line in on the swing arm. So now we're going to have to remove this bolt here because the hose runs through these pieces on the swing arm here, and they're solid. There's no way for the hose to slide out around them. So we're going to have to take this off, this bolt off of the caliper, and so it can slide out when we remove the swing arm. So that's going to be the next thing. We're going to take this off. I think it's a 12mm. Take that bolt out, drain the rest of the line. Alright, I wanted to show you one thing real quick with this rear wheel. Well, actually this chain. One is somebody has a little clip-on master link on it there. And then it looks like they have another master link here, like the chain broke and they replaced it, but it's missing the clip. And as you roll this along, I mean, it gets to some points where it's like the wheel will barely roll, just because this chain is in such bad shape. And you can see the rust on it, and like it's binding up, and it's terrible. I can't believe somebody was riding this. And I mean, it's just in terrible shape. And I mean, look right there, it locks onto the sprocket, and it's just in terrible shape. So that's one reason I'm replacing this chain, is because it's in such bad shape. And so I'm gonna get this chain off, take this rear wheel off. I already broke the bolt loose here for the swing arm. This is a 24mm. So I broke that loose. So hopefully we can pull all this off pretty easy. Alright, pop the chain off. Went ahead and took this bolt off. Mine was a 27mm. I don't know if that's the factory size or not, but got the bolt off, take the washer off. And now I'm just going to take a quick look at how this rear is set up, if there's any spacers anywhere. It looks like it has a spacer right inside on both sides, right inside the axle shaft there. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this axle out. I think the caliper and everything should come off with it because it's still bolted on. So we'll get all that out of the way and take this wheel off. Okay, got the wheel off. Like I said, there's two spacers, one on each side. Oops, that slide in there. So got the wheel off, got the chain off, got the caliper off, got the brake line out of the way. So now I should be able to pull the, I got to pull the shock off the swing arm, and the swing arm should be ready to be dropped out. Okay. Next, I went ahead and removed the bolt on the shock, which mine was a 19mm in washer. So I'm going to set that aside. And so now I'm going to remove the bolt that holds the swing arm on. One thing I did do too to add a little safety to this, I have it sitting on jack stands. So I just ran a ratchet strap around both jack stands, tighten them up together, so it would hold those stands in there tight while I'm prying and pushing on this thing. I still have my little scissor jack in there on the center as well, just for stability. But I don't want this thing to fall on me or fall period. So just put that little ratchet strap on there just to hold the jack stands in place. And hopefully that'll be a little safer. Still have the front ratchet strapped down to to the table. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that bolt that holds the swing arm on. I'm sorry, hold the shock on. This is a 8 millimeter Allen, 8 millimeter Allen. So we're going to pull that out, and hopefully the swing arm doesn't drop. So I'm going to put the camera down and pull this out. All right, wound up getting this bolt out, or the swing arm, I don't know what you want to call it, axle or whatever you want to call it, pin, whatever. It's out of there. So hopefully now the swing arm should come right out. I'm going to pull the, I got one more piece of the brake line. Oh no, that's just hooked on that little plastic rubber tab there. Let's see if I can get it out of here with one hand without slinging brake fluid everywhere. I just have this brake line wrapped up in a rag and tucked up underneath this wire just to hold it up there out of the way. So here's the swing arm out. So we're gonna get that, have to take this out and start getting it ready to paint. It's, like I said, it's a bright red, and I don't like the bright red. I want it back to close to the original color. So we're going to have to sand this thing down, clean it up, and get it ready for paint. So that's how you take the rear swing arm off. So it's not that hard. I tell you, so far, nothing on this bike has been really difficult. It's all come off pretty easy, and hopefully it goes back on as easy as it came off. Alright guys, I hope you can hear me okay. It's very cold out. It's 5 degrees here in Virginia, but I'm doing a little work outside anyhow. Got my heat running, so hopefully you can hear me okay. When I was stripping the paint off of this swing arm, I found that there was a hole here. It must have been like a tab like this welded on, and it must have gotten broke off, and somebody had actually body filled over it. You can see a little bit of Bondo there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld in a piece of metal in there to get the strength back, because I want to make sure it's strong. So I'm going to have to cut this out a little bit and cut a piece of metal, and I'm going to weld in a piece of metal there, and hopefully get back the strength that it needs. And so I may not be able to video much of this because it's very cold and I can't turn the heat off. It's 20 degrees in the shop right now. So I'm going to try to get this welded up, and I'll be back with you. Alright guys, not the most beautiful. The swing arm pretty much done. I still have to do some final sanding in certain areas where I couldn't get, like in here, around some of these corners. Again, this isn't a show bike, but I want it to look nice. And here's where we had to weld up the part of the swing arm that had the hole in it, where this piece, I guess it was the same as this, got ripped off. Must have been in an accident. So got that strengthened up, and we're just going to work on knocking some of the paint that I couldn't get to with the other sander, and just try to get some of this stuff knocked off where it looks better when we paint it. So that's what I'm going to work on today. If we can get some warmth in this garage, and you know, like I said, I'll check in periodically, show you guys what I'm doing, and try to keep this thing rolling. Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and put the rear swing arm back on, because I want to put the rear wheel assembly back together so I can take the front wheel off and, you know, suspend the bike a little bit better, because I'm going to have to go ahead and repaint the front forks and do all that, since that came out looking so nice. So now I'm going to put the rear swing arm in. I put some grease on the rear, on the mounting bolt there. I've got the collar back in here. So now I'm going to try to fish the brake hose back in, get the rear swing arm back on there, slide the mounting bolt through, and then that gets torqued to 80 foot-pounds. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm also going to do this all so I can put the chain and everything back on the hole. And I'm going to remove this old chain that's hanging down. So that's going to be the steps I'm going to do next. It's all kind of in reverse, and same thing of taking it out. Hopefully it all makes sense. I'll show you what I do after I do it. Okay, I got the swing arm on there. What I found was easiest to do was to start the swing arm bolt through and then put the shock bolt on, and that kind of holds everything up in place. And then the swing arm just slid right in. I put a little anti-seize on my nut here. I just like to use anti-seize on a lot of these bolts like this, that it's open to moisture and things that might help it from getting locked on there. So I'm going to go ahead and torque this down 80 foot-pounds and get the rest of this on. Alright guys, so I went ahead and cleaned up the adjusters that go in here in the rear swing arm. So I got those all cleaned up so it looks a little nicer. Going ahead and starting to remove, I went ahead and removed the old sprocket, putting the new sprocket on. This is a, what's it called, JT sprocket, and I've used JT sprockets before, but never used their chain, so hopefully it's a decent chain. This is a 46 tooth rear, and so I just cleaned up underneath here where the sprocket goes. I'm going to go ahead and put the bolts back in for the sprocket, or the nuts back on for the sprocket, I should say. Alright, so I put a nice layer of grease on my axle. Got the brake caliper lined up on the notch that it goes on there. So now we're going to try to slide the rear wheel on and hopefully not scratch and scar anything up on this new swing arm that we just painted. Alright, so I'm going to try to get this in and be back in a second. Alright guys, I know from this angle and what you can see, this doesn't do it justice, but I think the swing arm looks amazing with getting everything back on it. So I think it looks really, really nice. I can't wait to do the frame. I was kind of disappointed in a way when the swing arm came out looking so nice. I was like, oh great, now I'm going to have to paint the whole frame. But if the whole frame comes out and looks as nice as this swing arm, I'll be okay with that. So what I'm going to have to do now, I'm not going to put the chain on now because I made a silly mistake. I forgot to put the chain guard on before I put the swing arm on the bike. So I'm going to have to take off the left side foot controls or foot pegs to be able to get to put that swing arm protector back on, and I can't do that right now. So we're going to just move on to getting the front wheel off the ground. I know it's hard to see everything with all this plastic and tape all over everything right now. I apologize, but I got to get the front wheel off and see what I'm going to do about painting those front fork tubes and the front area, since I have to paint pretty much the whole frame now. So gonna work on that next.